Hey guys, Dr. Mark Johnson here. Welcome to the Patio Professor. That would be me. We're walking through the history of evangelism, and today we're going to talk about the age of the church fathers. Now that's important because we got 6 stages total. The first stage is the apostolic age from 1 to 100. Here's the age of the church fathers from 100 to 500. Next we'll have the Middle Ages / medieval ages, and that's from what is that from? It's 500 to 1500, so a lot of room there. Then we'll slide over to the Reformation age from 1500 to 1650. After that, we'll grab over the Puritan Pietistic stage from 1650 to 1900. Then we'll close with the one and only Great Age from 1900 to 2000. So, a lot of history. Let's dive right in and see where we're going to be. Because when we think about the age of the church fathers, you have to think of this as the age of the fathers, represented by those who were disciples of one or more of the apostles. So while we had Jesus had the apostles and disciples that he discipled, now these apostles have disciples that they have discipled as well. So it's really just the Christian truth as given in the name of Jesus and the message of Jesus to apostles, to the authorities in the church. So it's how the information is being passed down. In the apostolic age, we had the information passed down from Jesus to the disciples. And now in this age, we have it from those disciples who passed it down to their disciples. And passing down to the church an accurate, authoritative witness to the content of the apostolic teaching. So that's pretty cool. Here's your culture though. Think about the culture of the age of the church fathers from 100 to 500. We have the Roman elites. Now they provided great things. This was a good time because you had roads that sped up transportation. You have aqueducts, which gives a water supply. Technology, which actually caused a population growth. So when you think about the age of the church fathers, you have to think about innovation and technology and how it boomed the population. But people wanted to run down to these areas and hang out with Rome. Now, Hellenism was big here because the local people adopted a Roman culture that included dress, religion, artistry, style, different languages as well. So that's just a part of the culture. Some of your rulers were pretty important here. We have Decius from 201 to 250 AD. The goal there was to worship the God of the state, period. If you didn't, you got tortured. You didn't want to abide by the rules. Decius was like, hey, just fine, but we'll destroy everything you got, right? Diocletian from 284 to 305 ordered the destruction of all the churches. I'm not sure exactly how things started to pick up pretty fast. It was almost as like the egos of man began to take over, and they started to see some destructions because these Christians were just walking around not abiding by the rules, not worshiping the gods, not offering different things. So as a result, they were tortured and they were considered atheists. Can you imagine that? They considered atheists because they didn't serve the God of the Roman Empire. However, something special happened in this time. Constantine in 306, he lived from 306 to 337. The Edict of Milan comes into play. Came into play in 313. His rule from 306 to 337, Constantine said the Edict of Milan legalized Christianity, allowing the spread without fear of persecution. Now, can you imagine living during that time? Here's some of the leaders of the church, age of the church fathers. Polycarp, he was the bishop of Smyrna, martyred. Ignatius, bishop of Antioch, and an early Christian writer. He was martyred while headed to Rome. Ambrose, the bishop of Milan. Irenaeus, who wrote against heresies, refuting Gnosticism. He helped lead revivals in Lyons and sent missionaries to Gaul. So he was pretty significant in the fact of getting people in place for them to do great work. Justin Martyr, apologist, proclaimed the gospel as the only safe philosophy and means to certain salvation. For your salvation to be sure, it's the gospel of Jesus Christ that's needed here. Greg Thaumaturgus, Thaumaturgus. His last name means miracle worker. He was converted at the age of 29, bishop of Lyons at the age of 35, and he came to the Christian faith at the age of 17. No, not at 17. He came. His last name means miracle worker. converted at 29 years old, Bishop of Lyons at 35. When he got to Lyons, 17 Christians were in the city. But when he left, 17 pagans were in the city. So that's the kind of influence that he had. Speaking of influence, Patrick of Ireland. He's one who everybody knows the St. Patrick's Day and all the celebrations there. Named after him. He was called to preach at 16, captured by Irish raiders, escaped after 6 years. Then he developed a heart for the people while serving Great Britain. He went back to Ireland, preached, planted churches, and started schools and clergy, schools for clergy. He wrote hymns, organized churches, and 30 years later, 120,000 people converted to Christianity. And there he started 365 churches. Busy man. Irenaeus, we got him in there. Look at some of the philosophies here. Gnosticism, that's from Marcion and Valentinus. It says a belief in special knowledge about God to redeem mankind. Arianism from Arius, a belief that denies the deity of Jesus. And Nestorianism from Nestorius, that Christ has two separate natures. So even in the philosophies of that day, you would kind of see that there were still some people who weren't convinced that Jesus was all that. And that became to be a challenge for a lot of different people. But this age of the church fathers is real. A lot of pretty intense things happen, particularly when you get to the persecution. But all in all, they continued on to move to the next phase, which is the middle or medieval ages. And that's from 500 to 1500 AD.